Hello and welcome to yet another episode of The Kitchen Hacker. Today I'm showing you how to break down a tenderloin. This is a great way to save some money, so pay attention and we can save you a few bucks. First we're going to walk through the different parts of the tenderloin, breaking it down, and then we're also going to spend some time actually trimming it, cutting it down into steaks, and you will see that one little tenderloin can give you a lot of food. So now in front of me I have the whole tenderloin right here. We have basically two parts to this tenderloin that we're going to work with. We have this right back here is called the chain. This is the actual tenderloin. This here we consider the head. This is the middle section, and then we have... Now, I bought this tenderloin for about $8.99 a pound. So if you're talking $8.99 a pound versus say $15 for a steak, you're going to save a lot of money by buying this. Now that doesn't include the fact that we are going to trim off some of the waste and everything, so what we call our raw costs of the product will probably be in the $12 range, which is still a lot cheaper than you're going to buy steaks. Let's talk about the tools you're going to need. We're going to need a boning knife, fillet knife, because we want the flexibility. You can use a slicer. I use my chef knife. And then last but not least, we're also going to need a scale. I wrap mine in plastic wrap just so that it gives me another layer of protection on there. So now that you have all your tools assembled, we're on our cutting board. I've already drained this. It's already drained in the sink so that I don't have all this extra juice running around here, and we can get down to business. So you already know the parts. The first step we're going to do is we're going to take off this chain. You can actually do this by hand at the beginning, and this is probably the best way to do it, especially if you're beginning out. You want to take your time, feel yourself, get comfortable with this piece of meat. It's very large, it's expensive, I know that, but trust me, it's a great way to have steak. So as you can see, I ripped down most of this chain off, and if you can see here on the picture, right down here is where I'm going to make my cuts. Now we do want to be careful up here at the top because there's a lot of meat in the top portion of the fillet that we do not want to take off. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of come in, and I just make quick little passes with my knife, my fillet knife specifically. Alright, and I just come down the side right here. I have now separated the chain from the tenderloin. Alright, the chain has a lot of meat in it still, so we don't want to exactly get rid of this or use it all for stock. That would definitely be a waste of some really good meat. So now you see the actual fillet here in front of us. We have a lot of different parts here. Now remember that we get a lot of flavor from fat. So the object here is not to trim away all of the fat, but we do want to trim away things that are not going to be tasty. Alright, one of those things here specifically is what we call silver skin. You can see it right here. It lies right below the surface, okay? And this is not exactly going to ever break down or anything during the cooking process. So we are going to trim that out. Now how it begins is I'm going to slide my knife underneath this, and then I'm going to twist the knife up and slide down in a gentle sawing fashion. And this will help me to eliminate as much of the meat coming along with the silver skin as possible. Now the silver skin goes down here around this side of the head here. So you might want to go down and just kind of trim that a little bit to open that up. Alright, so this is why I take the pointy end here. Works best with a fillet knife. Go in about an inch and twist the knife up a little bit. The silver skin is very tough, so you will find that there's a medium where you can saw against it, and you can see here I didn't take much of the meat with me at all. Now same down the other side. I hold the back end. This is actually just how I skin a fish as well. Alright, it's a little slippery. Just gentle sawing motions here. Alright. So as you can see, not much loss at all there. Alright, and then the last little bit here, this is where it starts to get tricky, and do be careful, watch your hands. And I tend to just kind of cut it like a V and get that last little bit out there. I want to walk through here and I want to trim off some of the excess fat. Keyword is excess. Remember, we want to leave some fat on the tenderloin itself. Okay, got this little knot of fat here. This is typical. Generally, if you can kind of pull it off, that's fine. You don't have to worry about cutting it or anything. You might also find another patch or two of silver skin. I think we'll find another one on the other side of this head here. Right up in here. Silver skins are essentially the end of the tendon, which joins everything together. So obviously that musculature is not gathering any flavor. It's just kind of tough and it just kind of hangs on there. Alright, now this is where we want to be careful not to trim away all the fat. It may look like a lot, and sometimes it is, so use your best discretion, but let's not get carried away here. So now we're done trimming the steak. What do we do and how do we cut it? Well, that's the next question here. So once you have this done, we can basically pull out our scale that I have prepped right here. The average size of steaks is about 6 to 8 ounces. Okay, some of the other restaurants might even give you a 10-ounce steak, but they're also using larger fillets. Now, if you're doing this at home, a 6-ounce steak is going to be plenty. 2 4-ounce steaks would be great if you're doing something like a steak Diane or a peppercorn. So take that all with a grain of salt and cut steaks that you prefer the size of. I tend to like my steaks at about 1.5 inches thick, so I can get probably 5, 6 cuts of steaks that large out of the middle here. And then I'm also going to have the tail, and I'll have some bits of the head. What I'll do with the bits of the head is I'll make a stew and other different things with that cube meat, but then I have my other steaks that I can throw into the freezer. Now right about here is where I'm going to start cutting. The tail is great for my tips. It's great for wrapping in a puff pastry. That's a great meal for 2. That guy's going to weigh about 10, right there, 12 ounces. Okay, so that's great for 2 people to share. Now if I come down here with my steaks, I like 1.5 inch steaks. This should be right around 8 ounces. So there's a big guy. So what I'll do is I will just trim off a piece of the side here. Alright. And then this here, I can basically keep cutting. I can cut my thicker steaks down to here. I can wrap this whole and use it as a roast. It's all very good that way too. As you can see, the yield on this is pretty good. For basically 50 bucks here, I've got 6 steaks. I have 1 chateau. I have a nice head cut here that we can roast, and I have some extra tips, and that's not even including the stuff I have in the chain. So I hope you've enjoyed learning how to trim down a filet mignon today. We actually got a great value for our money here. So this is something you can do. You can tackle this. This is not too difficult. So make sure that you get out there and you try this at least once, okay? You can save yourself a lot of money. You can have filet mignon on a chuck roast budget. No problem. Thanks for watching this episode of The Kitchen Hacker. Please remember to check the website. We do update it daily with different hints and tips. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode where I teach you how to cook like a pro.